We're continuing our travel to Ikaria with an interview with the executive director of the National Health Association, an organization that's been in existence for, gosh, I think 75 years. And we have Wanda Huberman here with us. Is that right, Wanda? Has it been?
That's right. They were founded in 1948, so we're on our 76th year. And thank you so much for having me, Kathy. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being here. We're so excited she's here because she also went to the Blue Zones, Ikaria, just right after we left. She jumped in. So she jumped in with both feet too, because it was kind of an impromptu visit. And so what happened? Why were you going to the Blue Zones, Wanda?
Well, because of you, Kathy. Fortunately, we got to talk prior to our Greece cruise together. And I had set aside a week after our cruise to visit with family in Israel. Of course, this was when the war first broke out. So I had to pivot like so many others had to do. And I had a week off. And you were telling me about Ikaria. And I'm like, of course, that's where I want to go. So you made one introduction. I didn't even know what was happening. I just trusted it was going to work and I was going to be happy with it day by day. And I've never vacated. I'm a planner, I'm an organizer. So that was really outside my comfort zone. But I was so busy in Greece, I didn't focus about it. And it was perhaps the most enjoyable. Every day was something new. It was like Christmas morning. I didn't know what was coming the next day. And what a fabulous island. What a fabulous group of people that live there. It will stay with me forever.
You know, it's interesting that that was so impromptu because one thing in the interview that we did with Thea was she said they were spontaneous and that they jumped into things and they didn't necessarily plan. They made time for people. Did you feel that when you were there too?
That was so it. So Thea, who I know you've interviewed and got to know, and I got there the week when season was over. So things were closing down, which could have made it even more difficult. But they're such a generous group of people. Thea's Inn was closed and she just made all of these arrangements. I didn't give her deposits. I gave her just an email with a really brief outline. I'd like to do this. I want to be able to eat while I'm there. And I want to, just view the island. And so she had arranged for a driver and a cook and a car and a house. And I get to the airport and there's a gentleman just holding up the name Thea. And from there, I just go. And Thea came every night and we chatted and visited. And so it was true Icarian style, that it was spontaneous and it was social. And I learned their theory of time. Time stands still in general on Ikaria, but day to day, they're like, they don't have watches. And one day our driver, Thea, had said she has to take her daughter somewhere or pick her daughter up at a certain time. Well, I'm always wearing a watch. They're never wearing watches. And we're like going an hour over our time. It didn't matter. It didn't matter till Lainey, her daughter, called. She chatted on the phone a few minutes and we just kept doing what Elaine had planned for us to do for the day.
And Elaine was your guide, wasn't she?
Elaine was our guide. We were fortunate enough she picked us up 2 days and we spent about 7 hours each day with her. So she took us into the mountain villages. She took us to the forest, to the beaches, to the monastery, to the winery, to the castle, to the hot springs. Was just, I feel like I saw so much of that island, to the point that we had a rental car. She drove our rental car. And after a couple of days, believe it or not, Kathy, I was driving those mountain roads. Not relaxed, but I was doing it.
And that was the thing. We were introduced to it right away because as soon as we left the airport, we just hugged a mountaintop and it weaved in and out. What was it, 2.5 hours to go like 16 miles? Because it was something else. But that's what you have to live on all day. And didn't the exercise get across to you? You were just always moving up and down and around.
It was amazing, even just to get into the hot spring. So our first day, the driver picks us up and the hot spring is near the airport. And so Thea had sent me this note, bring a bag, have your swimsuit handy, not in your luggage because we're gonna stop. That way you're not gonna have to go back through the mountain to visit this beautiful hot spring. And you get to this little village. Everything are these little villages where everybody knows everybody. And it was pretty much closed down. There were a couple of cafes and you just walk and you wind around and nothing is, you wouldn't call it manicured, but it's beautiful. It's clean. And we enjoy this time in a hot spring. And I have a photo. It's in the ocean and you walk up to this like cave-like area and you can just feel spurts of the thermal springs of the heat. And there were about 8 people there. Normally in season, there would be more. So it was, and only one man spoke English. Everybody else was speaking Greek. And so the one man communicated with us. And you're not supposed to, these are medicinal. People go there for different hot springs for various medicinal reasons. And you don't stay in too long because apparently it's strong. There's actually radon coming up in those thermal springs. And so you don't stay in long. And if I can share my first experience of the people and the trust. So we're there. There's nowhere, it's not a beach where you have lockers or anywhere there is a place you can store stuff, but all that was closed down. So there was a couple of holes in this wall and I just put our towels there. Our driver from the airport kept my bag and in we go. My husband is a photography nut. And so he always has his camera, his phone for the camera. And our drivers, so we're enjoying, and our driver's wife happens to be in town for something else. And she comes over and offers to take a picture. Mark gives her his phone. He gets back in. She takes a couple of pictures for us. She doesn't speak very good English. And she says, she said, do you want your phone in the bag? And I responded, yes, your husband has the bag. We go back, we spend another half hour. We get out, we go lay on the beach to dry off a little bit before we get dressed. And there's nowhere to get changed. And our driver's drinking coffee. The men are drinking coffee all day long in these villages. It's crazy. And he says, oh, you can go back and use the bathroom here. We go back, we change, come out. And I said, oh, Mark, I don't have your phone. I take it you have it. And he said, I don't have it. And I asked the driver and the driver said, I don't have it. And so I'm like, oh, all right, let me go back around to where that hole in the wall was and see. Now I knew next to our clothes, there was a blue bag, didn't belong to us. The blue bag was gone. My phone was gone. My husband's phone was gone. And the man who speaks English saw me walking around and I told him what I was doing. He said, oh, the lady with that blue bag, she was walking around trying to find the owner and she couldn't find the owner. So she went home. She doesn't have a cell phone. She's visiting from Athens. We don't know how to reach her, but no worries. You'll get it back. Everybody does the right thing in Ikaria. And she comes every day. And the man said, I'm going to be here. I'm going to tell her you're staying at Thea's Inn. Everybody on the island knows Thea's Inn. And we'll get it back to you. And so what happens is the driver didn't give his formal name. So she wouldn't give it to him. If she had been on Ikaria, that wouldn't have happened. Everybody knows everybody. She would have trusted him. But she didn't. And it took a couple of days before she finally called Thea. And she said she would only give it to Mark and I. So we had to drive back down through the mountain to the Therma Inn. I said, but that's okay. That's the way today is meant to be. That happened to be one of the days that Eleni was with us. She says, we'll just change our plans and we'll do things on that route. And so we went down and she wasn't there. And the guy at the inn was sitting there waiting. In all the confusion, I had left my beach shoes. I had left a beach towel. He's holding all of that. Oh, this is all yours. And he gives me that stuff back. And he says, the lady took your phone to the police station. The police station's in a different village. Thank goodness I didn't drive down. I would have been a nervous wreck. Eleni said, no problem. We'll go 15 minutes. It's always no problem with a smile. And she takes us to the police village. That lady is waiting there for us inside the police station. She was so sweet. She loved my husband. And so she gave us the phone, and then she doesn't drive. So we hung out in that village and walked around a bit while Eleni drove her back to where the hot springs was, where she was staying to get some treatment for arthritis in the spa. And that is Ikaria. Where in the States would you lose your phone for 2 days with a language barrier and no way to communicate and still get it back with a hug?
Take care of you. Okay, now you talked to me about the things you did and that feeling you had about nature. And tell me what you thought about that.
So I loved being outside all day, kind of waking up with the sun and going to bed with the sun. And I love the microclimates. So it might be cold up toward the mountains and very warm down toward the ocean and something in between on the drive. But you see people walking, they're outside, whether they're 4 years old or 94 years old. Everybody's walking, everybody's saying hi to each other. Cars are waving as you pass because the roads are narrow and there aren't that many. There's one main road called Main Road, and then there's offshoots. And probably what I liked best is when I went with Thea to her husband's farm, and everybody is foraging. You're gathering food, and it's nature. It's not, I love my raised beds and our manicured garden, but this is just, everything appears wild, but they have a purpose. They know how to use it. It grows seasonally. And just to watch them pick the herbs, and we would be there, and Thea just picked some, I think it was called lemon balm. And she gave me a handful, and she said, keep it. You're going to want it for hot tea in your house tonight. And so I did that. And, the ladies who cook, they're just picking it. And then that's what they're making you for dinner. You could just taste the freshness. You could taste the love that was poured into it. It was just being in the nature part, breathing it every day. We slept better. Everything was better. We were smiling all the time because why not? It was beautiful.
That was what I heard from Thea too, that all their activity was always focused towards getting outside and moving up and down those cliffs and mountains but interacting with people while you do it. And,
right.
That was a really strong message for me. But you also got to sample some of those weeds that I talked to Thea about that were growing on the mountainside, like the herbs, like lemon balm. But there were a lot of plants, weren't there? I had read that they ate more plants in Ikaria than the other Greek countries, but I didn't really realize how easy it would be to eat some real plants there because they were everywhere.
And greens that I'd never ate before, prepared in ways that I'd never had prepared for me before. And so I was fortunate enough that Thea arranged for a cook. I had 2 different ladies cooking on different days, and they would just cook for the day and bring it to my house. And so when we got back after a day, I had a whole food, plant-based, SOS-free meal of fresh food and lots of greens, lots of beans. And it didn't matter what it was. I knew it was delicious. Lots of herbs. So a lot of cooking with more, I use herbs, but they do it brilliantly. And I don't care what age group you're talking to, or whether it's a man or a female. They all know, oh, if this ails you, you're going to eat this. And if this is bothering you, you're going to use that herb. And Thea's husband, Ilias, is that how you say his name?
I never got quite how to pronounce his name.
Ilias.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how he pronounced it. And he, I asked him, how do you know this? And he was born on Ikaria. And he said, well, my grandmother did this, and my mother did this, and all the neighbors did this. And so you just learn it growing up. In the States, the kids learn how to be on their tablets because that's what everybody's doing. In Ikaria, they learn what's in the ground and how to use it. And they see the generations before them, and to see the generations living together. So when I went Eleni took me to her house. Athena is her mom. She's the head chef at Thea's. She's also one of the chefs that wrote recipes for the Blue Zones book. And so she showed me her indoor kit. They have indoor, outdoor kitchens, some of both. And everything's very minimalist, very rustic. I love that just the materialism of the States just vanishes. You don't even realize it's vanished because at least I didn't. I was so mesmerized. Is that how you say the word? By the villages. And she just took me around, and my husband saw oranges. She goes, "Oh, you want citrus for breakfast? Okay." And oh, chestnuts are in season. I boiled you chestnuts. Enjoy those tonight. And the generosity and the spirit of love and kindness and support. It's like you would think, of course, they might give that to each other. They're in villages, but they gave that to us, which was amazing.
Yes, they're very, very open and welcoming to everybody.
Right.
And one thing, I wanted to mention is, the little cove that was out from with beautiful beach. I think I've got,
Nas Beach, NAS.
yes.
Yeah.
Did you see those rocks down there to the left of the beach that look like, carved pillars that had fallen
Yes.
down?
Yes.
Well, I read about them. Did they tell you about them?
About the village or something that was there a long time ago?
A long time ago. That was a temple to Armitage, the god.
Oh, okay. Yes, I remember now.
Yeah, yeah. And I would have done this if I'd known that this was in the water. It was a little cool when we were there, and I wasn't eager to get in that water, but the pillars from that temple are in that little bay's waters. If you snorkel, you can see
We
them.
didn't go in the water either. It was cold. We climbed the rocks. We walked the beach.
Yes, that used to be a harbor, evidently. I'm talking 6th century BC. So,
Okay.
and Ikaria, this Gnosis, I guess they say is the first community or dwelling on Ikaria back then. So it was pretty special, but I was intrigued by that because we kept looking at it thinking, that has to be a Greek ruin. It's just too
Right.
too well done. And it's just the foundation that's left. Okay, so now you didn't see any Blue Zones centenarians, did you?
Sort of. So Eleni said there's this guy named Georgios Stanos, I think was his name, and that he retired at about 70 and started if I remember what they called, if she called it a factory and sells honey. He's a beekeeper.
Oh, he's the beekeeper.
He's the beekeeper. And she said, we're going to stop at his plant. And you're not going to interview him. He doesn't speak English, but you'll just say hi. And we were kind of keeping a distance from them just because we've been traveling. And so we stopped. It doesn't look like a plant the way we know it. It was kind of a rundown building with happenstance of fruits and vegetables growing everywhere, and all the doors are open. There's nobody locks doors. Everybody's welcome anywhere, and cats are wandering around. And we walk around for a while as Jordan, where is he? And this lady comes out and says, oh, he's down in the village. And so we were going to the village next anyway, and he was sitting there drinking his coffee, and Eleni introduced us. But I just didn't feel comfortable sitting down and saying, can you interpret and have a chat? So we just said hi. We went in, got our tea, and we sat at a different table. And just watching all the other people in the village interacting with him was glorious. That was enough for us.
There was a woman that was a centenarian, and she was asked, well, how do you live so long? And she says, well, I guess we just forgot to die. And I was thinking about that when I read about one of the statisticians that studies there. And he had a very interesting comment that I bet you could agree with. Did you feel that that was a big piece of it too.
That and the way, the respect that they all have for each other. Eleni explained to me that money and class systems don't mean anything. You can be the richest or the poorest, and nobody asks what you do. They ask, how are you? And it's more like they live generations. So she explained to me that families don't sell their houses. They go to the next generation. So her grandmother, her parents, her and her daughter lived in this house where we went. Her grandmother died, I think, at 103. And then her mother and her daughter, and I just think the oldest living relative lives on the first floor, and then the next on the floor after, and her sister lives nearby, and her cousin has the beehives nearby. And it really is a village in the true sense of a village, that they all take care of each other. So I don't know who out there has watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding and you think it's a joke. It's not a joke. When we first got there, we had to go up this one street to get to Nas where Thea's was. And Thea told me she would not be there because there was a wedding. You could barely get through the street. There were so many cars, and knowing so many people walk too. And you don't get married in Ikaria unless the entire village you live in is invited.
Wow.
And so that's what it is. And the same thing as they die, they have a schedule, she explained, where like they visit the family at 3 months, they visit the family at 6 months. And, it's not like, you go for 6 or 7 days and they're surrounded with love and then they're left on their own and that loneliness sits in. Just doesn't happen. They're back in the community. They're not afraid to keep talking about the people who died because it was with such love and respect and they lived good lives. And Eleni told me it's shame to send an elder to a nursing home. They have one nursing home on the island, and that was more for people who unfortunately had outlived all their family or immigrated there and didn't have family. But very few people go to nursing homes.
And Dan tells us, that the people in America live 8 to 10 years young. They died 8 to 10 years younger. They have heart disease much more readily, and cancer, and much more Alzheimer's. I mean, it's just a tremendous amount. It's like almost none in Ikaria compared to what we have, except when they immigrate. And I'm going to put the link up to this webpage that you can watch what happens when an Icarian group went to Chicago. I think it was Chicago.
Wow.
It happened there with Alzheimer's. You'll want to watch that video because it's very telling and very different from what we were able to experience when we went there. That's for sure.
And the difference, Kathy, wouldn't you agree, is, if you're going to live to 95 or 105, you're living. You're not in a recliner with 2 caregivers trying to help you up to use a walker to get to your wheelchair, where you don't remember your kids' names or you're so infirm that you need to be near medication. So much of America, we might have people living to 85, 95, but those last 10 years are not living. They're life without life.
And Wanda, I'm going to put the link also to a recent podcast that Dr. Jami Dulaney did. And one of her patients who moved, 2 of them, this couple, to an assisted living facility. And Dr. Dulaney explains, because this woman asked Dr. Dulaney to talk about it, what happens when you move just to assisted living and how you don't have the freedoms that they have in Ikaria to use your body, to eat a healthy food like you want to eat all those plants and vegetables and those beans. So that will be a good one that you might want to watch next.
Thank you. So my children are grown and this organization has become my baby. I retired from my first career in 2020 after 30 years and became the executive director of the National Health Association. I've been involved with the National Health Association for 40 years. And I just wanted to see it grow and continue and jump off that ledge to see if I could help do that. And we, the National Health Association doesn't sell anything other than information and the availability to go to conferences, cruises, and we're a membership base. So we don't sell any products. For $35 a year, you're a member. And our mission is really to spread the word that healthcare is self-care, that health results from healthful living. These are a couple of the slogans that we've had. I've got t-shirts. My husband has been involved in this organization since he was born. So that was 1951. And the slogans that they had back then are so apparent today. So our organization is out there to support doctors and people like you that are spreading the word and other organizations so that we can get this information out to the masses, that a whole food, plant-based lifestyle will provide a healthier lifestyle for humans, for our animal kingdom, and for our planet. And it's really easy for me to get caught up on our health, but I never lose sight of the birds that are at the feeder outside my window, or the cats that are sleeping in my daughter's house, or, you know, all of the animals in our homes and our lives and in the wildlife. That was really respected in Ikaria too. Although they do eat some animals, the way the animals roam wild, there's no mass production of what they do consume. And then how they care for our planet. We could take a big lesson in regenerative farming. They're way ahead of us. We're now talking about regenerative farming. That's all they've ever known, is to keep their soil healthy. So it's not even a matter of you can have a garden in your backyard. If we don't, or you buy it from a local gardener, if we're not keeping our soil healthy to give us the nutrients, we're not getting the maximum benefit. We produce a quarterly magazine. This is actual print, and it goes to all of our members, and that's part of your $35 membership. And my husband will interview a well-known doctor. This particular one was Drs. Alona Halday and Matt Lederman. There'll be scientific articles on health or the climate or perhaps animals. There's always, we're not a recipe magazine, but there's always a small recipe section. In our summer issue, Windstar Chef Sam is going to feature. We're going to have recipes from Windstar. So that'll be fun. We put on conferences. Last year was our 75th annual conference. It's always the last weekend in June, and it's been in Cleveland, Ohio. We have an early bird special going through the end of the year. And this hotel can hold 350, 360 people in person. We have about 85 to 90 seats left. So we're getting close to being sold out. I'm in the process of building a virtual platform. So we will be offering this virtually. That'll probably take another 3 to 4 weeks to get built, but we'll advertise. You can come virtually, come in person. I personally create every recipe and every menu. I bring a chef, a professionally trained chef that is part of the NHA to the conference, and he is in the kitchen working with the chefs. So the quality of the food you get is great. You get that sense of community that we're talking about. And in the last 3 to 4 years, we've started doing whole food plant-based cruises. They've taken off like crazy. They sell out very quickly. And so aside from our cruises, Kathy, I think you know this, I'm not sure, that we are venturing into land travel.
No.
So I'm taking a group of 18, well, actually 15. There is room for 3 to 4 more. There are 2 rooms left. One of them could be a solo room. The other is a double room. The solo room could be single or double. I'm taking a group of people to an organic agri-villa in Tuscany.
Oh,
And
how
we're doing that to May. We're going to fly into Florence, and we're going to take a bus as a group. We're going to go to this agri-villa. All the food prepared is on the farm with this beautiful pool and this beautiful house. We're all going to stay in the same house together, and we're going to take day trips doing biking through the through the Tuscany villages. And you can go to our webpage and you can find out where you can sign up for a free newsletter. You don't want to spend the $35 off the bat. You feel like you're subscribed to a lot. We get it. That's fine. Enjoy our newsletters for free. You'll end up wanting to join, I guess. That's what most people tell me. There's a recipe section. I used to have that gated that only members can get to. I've taken that off. I create an e-cookbook that you get when you come to the conference, and it's every recipe and every menu and tells you who wrote them that's served at the conference. Those are going to be available on our website. So you can go on the website and see the recipe section. Come to a conference, you get to meet with 300 other people, 400 other people eating this way. And we have people that are newbies that are still maybe do meatless Mondays and that's it. And we have people that have been living this way 40 years. So lots of fun things. I'm very proud to work with the NHA. This is a quick flyer of all the speakers. We're going to have ones that everybody's heard of: Dr. Neil Barnard, Dr. Dean and Aisha Sherzai, Dr. Caldwell Esser, Dr. Ron Weiss, and so many more. I won't name them all because you can look on our website and you can sign up. We all stay in the same Holiday Inn and Conference Center. And so you're sleeping, eating, and participating all day. It starts on Thursday, June 27th and goes through Sunday night, June 30th.
And on that website, what was the website? I'm going to put it in the
Yes, it's healthscience.org.
healthscience.org. Okay.
Right.
Good.